The late Dambudzo Charles Marechera was a renowned Zimbabwean writer and poet. He was born on the 4th of June, 1952, in the Vengere Township ghetto near Rusape, to Isaac Marechera and Mashotwa Venenzai Marechera. He was born into a troubled family. His father was a mortuary attendant who later died in 1966 after being hit by a car, although Marechera has stated that his father was killed by the Rhodesians. This was his first book, titled The House of Hunger, which was published in 1978 and won the Guardian Fiction Prize in 1979. This relatively small book carries a mainly negative analysis of the independent process of Zimbabwe, while also being satirical. The novella begins with the first-person narrator, who is an anti-hero. The book is notably similar to Marechera's life in many ways. The narrator, whose name is never mentioned, wanders from place to place without really finding where he belongs in a racially compromised society. The narrator grows up with his impoverished family living in a grim neighborhood mainly inhabited by racism, violence, prostitutes, pimps, and petty criminals. This book could be seen as a coming-of-age story. The narrator grows up in a very toxic environment with his sexually immoral and physically abusive brother Peter, his promiscuous and alcoholic mother, who uses these unhealthy outlets to deal with her pain. Though brilliant and very intellectually gifted, he is scarred, troubled, and resentful. The narrator inherits this behavior, which also haunts him and his choices for the rest of his life, like Marechera himself. The narrator does not give his story in chronological order. Through flashbacks, memories, anecdotes, and conversation with friends in a beer hall on the day of his departure, the narrator paints a harrowing picture of his life and those of other Black natives in the Rhodesia of the 1960s and 1970s, which he calls the House of Hunger. For example, Edmund, whose mother sleeps with his classmates for money, or another unnamed man who literally almost peels his skin off in a bid to be white. Public murders at high schools and even public rape displays also occur. He describes the suffering and troubled people in his past by also foreshadowing the life after independence. The narrator studies in a white-run Catholic school of Black students and teachers, mostly whites, but the real world awaits him as he goes to university. In 1972, he was enrolled at the then University of Rhodesia, where he studied English literature and writing. The nameless narrator has an indifference to his tutors, making him very antagonistic and a troublesome burden. He is an indifferent rebel who doesn't listen, fights, drinks, curses, and acts out, even trying to burn the Oxford University building in England at one time and leading to his expulsion, which is referenced in the beginning of the book. Being expelled from educational institutions became something common in his life, again, just like the man who wrote the book himself. The book can be seen as an existential work because of its non-linear themes, lack of real character development, and style of narration. There are many different stories of racism, murder, violence, prostitution, sex, and much more dark themes. The inhabitant of the House of Hunger is not considered to be a hero, because he does nothing and is too defeatist for a revolutionary. He left the House of Hunger following his displeasure from the place of the book's title. The book's title does not refer only to the inhibition of the nourishment of food, which was ravaging pre-independent Zimbabwe at the time in the Black community, but also implies a more far-reaching and metaphorical hunger of the spirit. The aggressive yearning and emptiness within the national consciousness, aspiring for more but held back by racism, poverty, and corruption. In a British colonized society that treated blacks as more of animals and refused them basic human rights and standards.